We're now joined by our reporter on the ground in Kericho. Aaron Ocheng, good to see you. Just paint a picture for us, if you will, of just why this by-election is important for William Ruto in Kericho, for our audience who are of obviously the region.
Well, James Mata, we are here in Kericho just a few hours before the deadline for the campaigns to end here in Kericho ahead of Monday's by-election. But of significant importance is the way that this particular election is being regarded in the ruling coalition, because it is an acid test for Deputy President William Ruto, having nominated one of his allies into the cabinet and hoping that that will translate into votes here in Kericho County. But as it's turning out, the people of Kericho County are not banking on that, and they are saying that the goodies that they got from the Jubilee alliance after the 2013 general election is not what they expected, and they're saying that they've been shortchanged by the coalition, and they're giving the deputy president a run for his money, especially when he's campaigning for his nominee, the nominee that Jubilee coalition is campaigning for, a young man who is making his strides into the politics, Aaron Cheriot. But we will wait and see, because the opponent for the ruling coalition, which is a party that has ruled this country for many years, KANU, has some of its supporters, ardent supporters, who have been in the Jubilee coalition, and they're giving the deputy president a run for his money. What they're saying is that they are not in the opposition, but it's just a protest vote in regard to the way the Jubilee coalition handled them after the 2013 general election. So tomorrow is going to be the last day for campaigns. We expect the deputy president to lead the brigade here in Kericho, and we're also expecting that Baringo Senator Gideon Moi will also be leading the other brigade that also comprises of Bomet Governor Isaac Ruto, and also another last attempt to try and lure the electorates to vote for their candidates. Smart.
Just go through this conversation just bit by bit and help our audience, obviously, in the region understand that William Ruto is considered the king in Rift Valley. This by-election is in a constituency, if you like, to think of a constituency in the Rift Valley, and help people who are in the region understand why would William Ruto, the deputy president, be struggling for this seat and be seen as a do or die for him to get this seat.
We would say it's a do or die contest, especially here, because, as you know, we are heading to the general election, and this is one of the areas that the deputy president enjoys massive support. This is an area that voted overwhelmingly for Jubilee coalition in the last general election, and there are already cracks that are starting to emerge. Should he fail to consolidate votes in this particular region, he will not have that massive say when it comes to national politics, because this is an area that is presumably already in the bag. It is a vote that he shouldn't be struggling to get. It is a vote that he's assured of. It is a vote that the last general election, he didn't spend much time here because he had to campaign in other parts of the country. And should he fail to secure this particular region, then it will mean that even nationally, people will be asking questions. Does the deputy president even enjoy support from where he comes from, or from the area that he enjoys support from? So it is very significant that Jubilee coalition gets this right, because we are heading to the general election in a very few months from now, and the security of this particular area, especially for Jubilee coalition, will be a significant boost when it comes to the general election in 2017. Smart.
Aaron, I must pick your reporting expertise in this. This is not the first by-election you're reporting on. You're always reporting on politics and that sort of things. And I don't know what's different in this. You've been in Kericho for quite a while now. First, what are the people saying before we talk about the analyst? If you talk to people in Kericho, what are they, thinking this is something to fight about? It's supposed to be an easy win for Jubilee. They are in the Jubilee zone, URP, highly popular in Rift Valley. What are people saying?
Well, if you understand the politics of this area, this is a Kipsigis region. Kipsigis are predominantly the majority when it comes to the Kalenjin in terms of numbers. Deputy President does not come from this region. He comes from the North Rift. He's a Nandi, but this area really supported him in the general election. So the Kipsigis here are sort of saying that, okay, it looks like the Nandis got the most shares when it came to sharing the national cake after the 2013 general election. And they are saying, so most of whom we've spoken to, they are saying they are not enemies of the ruling coalition. What they are just saying is that we are making a protest vote. But as I've already indicated, it is not yet a do or die situation. It's not already, the call has not been made. And the last minute campaigns maybe also change the cast, because when you look at the exit polls, most of the people we've spoken to, they're still saying it might go either way. It is not fully secured for KANU, and at the same time, Jubilee cannot sit back and say, since we have the deputy president on our side, we'll be able to carry out the day. So the people are also 50-50, especially here in Kericho. What I've gathered around Kericho town, looks like most of the people around here are voting for KANU based on the fact that this is a cosmopolitan area, and we also have other people, other tribes who are also voting in this particular area. But in other constituencies, because it's a big county with 6 constituencies, in other parts of the constituencies, they are saying they will still be voting for Jubilee. So it is not yet cast in stone that KANU will be taking this, and also Jubilee should not sit back and presume that they will take this particular seat smart.
All right, Aaron, and now let's talk about the experts. Those are the people and those are the issues. The experts, this is turned into a referendum of some sort on William Ruto, but obviously this is also a supremacy battle. Gideon Moi, former president's son, is also angling for this seat and is the chairman of the ruling party, KANU, and the candidate that, as you say, is on the lead on the polls that you're mentioning. Talk to me a bit just about the supremacy battle between William Ruto and Gideon Moi.
Well, for the two, if you recall, probably before we bring in Gideon Moi, you will have to introduce another name of Isaac Ruto. Isaac Ruto, since the coalition started, they have been in a warpath since he was the chair of the Council of Governors. They have not been reading from the same script with the deputy president. And this has escalated into this particular by-election, where both of them now are trying to outmuscle each other as who is the king of this particular region. Isaac Ruto himself comes from this particular area. He's from a neighboring county of Bomet, but he's a Kipsigis. Gideon Moi comes from a little bit farther. He comes from Baringo. He's a Tugen. He comes from a little bit of minority tribe when it comes to the Kalenjin numbers. But the combination of the two, Gideon Moi and Isaac Ruto, when they come together now, that could be a formidable force that William Ruto cannot take for granted, bearing in the fact that Gideon Moi is the chairman of KANU. KANU has been ruling this country for ages. And we also remember that KANU has been having significant support in this particular region before the formation of multi-party politics. So it cannot be taken for granted, bearing the fact that the two, if they come together, the Kipsigis, if they will rally behind Isaac Ruto, and also the Tugen, who are coming from the region that KANU chairman Gideon Moi comes from. If they combine that and also the fact that KANU is not yet dead, as people would call it, it's a chama cha baba na mama, if I may call it in English, so in Swahili. So we'll be able to see, we will not say that the deputy president is having sleepless nights, just for the mere fact that these two are combining forces and they're coming into a general election that is just a few months away. If they get Kericho, if they get Kericho County senatorial seat, then they will put their heads up and say, probably when it comes to the general election, we can pull the same thing in other counties. And I'm sure that will not be something that will augur well with the Deputy President William Ruto. Smart.
Yes, interesting. I think that the phrase there is they would go into 2017 elections with their tails up. I just want to pick again your reporting experience, in these matters, and go to another by-election. These by-elections were triggered, in effect, by Deputy President William Ruto and Uhuru Kenyatta when they made appointments to cabinet appointments, and they went to, as it were, robbed the opposition of one of its members, triggering a by-election in Malindi. And Malindi is sort of an interesting case as well. It was Jubilee was not supposed, in effect, to be fighting for Kericho. They were supposed to take a seat away from Code. But it hasn't been like that, Aaron. Talk to me a bit about that.
Well, if I put the two by-election together, I would say that if the principles, the ruling coalition principles had predicted this, probably they would have thought twice before making this particular move. Because the appointment of Charles Keter into the cabinet, maybe the people who sat down and thought about that, they thought, now if we have elevated Charles Keter to be a cabinet secretary, then automatically that would be a big plus to the Kipsigis community. They would see that actually the Jubilee government is on their side and they are giving them key appointments. And let's now reciprocate and give them this particular seat that was Charles Keter, let's just secure it and give it the candidate that Jubilee will pick. That's not the case. If they hadn't anticipated this, probably they would have thought twice. And let's cross over again to Malindi. And they picked another ODM candidate they picked a person from the opposition, thinking now that the people who in Malindi, they would say, now that we have someone in government, let's also appreciate what the government has given us and also give them this particular seat that was held by Dan Kazungu, the former member of parliament for Malindi. But it is not turning out. But ODM also, it is in a region that ODM enjoyed a significant support in 2013 general election. But that is not the case right now. The people of Malindi know that ODM is in the opposition. Do they still want to remain in the opposition? The ruling coalition is an extending a hand that they are seeing. This is a hand that probably this is where bread will be buttered. Do we want to still stay in the opposition? Those are the questions that Malindi people will be asking themselves before they decide on who to vote. So. And also, Jubilee coalition in Malindi is an area that they are finding it very difficult to campaign for the fact that it is an ODM zone that really dominated that particular area in the last general election. So in both areas, Kericho County and Malindi constituencies, we cannot really say, it's not elections that we can say we clearly know who is going to take it until probably the very last time, and I'm sure by evening of Monday when votes counts will be starting, I'm sure that we will not call it very early. We might not call it whoever has won the seat very early. It might take us late into the night and probably to the very, very last wards when it comes to Malindi, and also very, very last constituencies when it comes to Kericho County. Smart.
Yeah, Aaron, I must take you back to Malindi just for a second, if we may dwell on for a second. This is not the first time that, in effect, Jubilee coalition had entered or wandered into the opposition zone and picked a candidate and elevated them into a position. I'm thinking, obviously, of course, about Narok, where obviously they ended up losing that seat to the Orange Democratic Movement. Looking at Malindi, just keenly and focusing on Malindi, that the opposition seemed to have taken a different tactic in Malindi, and they are not going there to sell a candidate per se. They're going there and asking the people, this is about the party, this is about the trust of the party, this is about 2017 clearly, where you are going to place all your eggs in either ODM or in Jubilee, in effect.
Well, when it comes to Malindi, I think the ODM and CORD brigade, they've been campaigning in Malindi on the basis of performance of the Jubilee coalition. We've seen CORD leader Raila Odinga, not particularly talking about the candidate that ODM has presented, but talking about the issues that Jubilee government is perceived to have failed this country. We're talking about corruption, we're talking about nepotism, we are talking about security of this country, and that is what the avenue that CORD is using mainly in Malindi, and they are asking the people of Malindi, do you still want this status quo to remain? But looking at the candidates that are vying in Malindi, ODM is fronting a rather new entrant into politics in Malindi. And Jubilee, on the other hand, they picked a person that had lost narrowly in ODM. So he's a person that really enjoyed CORD support in the last general election, and they went and lured him into the ruling coalition. So the Jubilee candidate in Malindi is a very well-known person. He's a candidate that the people of Malindi can relate to. But he's vying on a party that is less popular in Malindi. But when it comes to ODM candidate, he's a rather new entrant into the politics, but he is being supported by a party that really enjoys massive support in Malindi. So it rather complicates the issues. It puts that mathematics in a bit of an awkward manner, and it will be very difficult for us to say how will it go. Very difficult for us to predict how it might go at the very end. Smart.
Yeah, of course, it's going to be very difficult on the prediction, and we'll only know about these numbers, obviously, until that on Monday night when this is happening. But just my final question for you before I let you off. How did Jubilee turn this into a referendum into themselves, in fact? Because in Malindi, the issues are Jubilee has failed, there's corruption issues, and the forces are converging in Malindi and in the entire, of course, region. In Kericho and in Rift Valley, the forces are as well converging. How did they turn this into a referendum on themselves?
Pardon me, Smart, if I didn't get the question right.
Perhaps just to finish up, to help our audience understand how these two by-elections spread across the country, one in Rift Valley, the other one in Coast, how it turned out to be a referendum on the Jubilee coalition and its performance.
Yeah, I understand now the question. Now, it is turning out to be a sort of a referendum because the country will be watching and see how these things will play out. For example, if CORD loses in Malindi, people will be asking a lot of questions about Raila Odinga. He's used a lot of resources and his time to campaign in Coast region. And he's also used that particular occasion to actually scorn the Jubilee coalition in the manner in which they've been running the country. So suppose they lose that, then Raila Odinga will leave Malindi constituency with his tail in between his legs, because he will be saying, I've used all my resources and this is what the people of Malindi have given me. Now let's come to Kericho, Deputy President. He's a partner in the ruling coalition. He's also used resources, time, and he's even sent some of the big names from the Jubilee coalition. We are talking about the likes of Kipchumba Murkomen. We are talking about Kithure Kindiki. They've been camping here, campaigning for Aaron Cheriot. Should he lose, it is going to dent his image when it comes to 2017 general election, because people will be asking, why did the president, the deputy president, fail in his own backyard? How do we now take him nationally? How do we regard his politics if his own people have rejected him? So in both cases, it is a sort of a referendum the country will be watching, especially now the people that are on the limelight is ODM leader Raila Odinga and Deputy President William Ruto. Smart.
Aaron Ocheng there holding fort for us in Kericho. Aaron, hope you have a fantastic time. We hope to see you covering and telling us all this, the latest from Kericho.